We're continuing on with our budget series, and joining me now is Corporation Counsel for the City of Stevens Point, City Attorney Andrew Beveridge. Andrew, thanks for joining us today.
Happy to be here, Mayor.
We're trying to talk about where the money goes, right? When we have a budget process, and we're working through that now, where we spend our money, how we use that money efficiently and wisely. And the city attorney is arguably one of the spots where we could say that we do save a lot of money, and we actually have some revenue coming in. Tell me what the city attorney does.
So the city attorney's position is created by state statute, and there's content in that statute to identify what the duties are. However, it's very broad. And essentially what it boils down to, what most people might understand a little more closer to their normal experience, is similar to what would be called a general counsel for a private organization, which is an attorney that is an employee of the organization that the attorney is advising. And within that role can essentially provide any type of legal advice that's needed, legal representation that's needed in actual court proceedings or administrative proceedings. And that's essentially what my office does. There are a couple things that we use outside counsel for instance, bond issuance. In order to take bonds to the market, we do go through outside counsel for that because it's a highly specialized process. And of course, we sometimes have to bring in outside counsel just as needed, typically when ethical rules require us to have a second attorney to represent a board or commission that I'm appearing in front of to advocate for the position of a staff member. But in general, I provide all the legal services that the city needs, whether that be consulting with different departments on statutory interpretations, reviewing contracts, drafting contracts, prosecuting matters in the municipal court, advising on human resources, personnel matters. The list goes on and on.
I'm sure it does. You know, and all of those things are covered by really a staff of two, you and a paralegal. And it should be noted that you work for the city of Stevens Point. You don't work for the mayor. You don't work for the city council or any one of its members or even individual department heads. Your job is really to do what's in the best interest of the city, regardless of what that might be. And I know you deal with human resources issues and potentially some discipline issues, contracts and you can imagine how many contracts there are in the city. Walk us through a typical day outside of municipal court, because we'll stay with that separately.
Sure. You mentioned contracts, and there's obviously quite a bit of contractual language that I have to go through, and that can be anything from looking at a development agreement within a TIF district, which are typically contracts that we've drafted in-house and sort of slowly refined over the years, all the way up to a software user agreement, the type of thing that a viewer might be used to just scrolling down and clicking, I agree. I will go through that in detail and make sure that there's no pitfalls in there. And also things like construction contracts, what we call AIA documents. That's an organization that provides standardized architectural documents and going through those things, usually looking for the limitations of liability, making sure if we need to go to court, it'll be here instead of in Lubbock, Texas, or something like that. But the typical day is going to be, just the normal stuff that any city staff member does: answering emails, answering phone calls, looking at a handful of long-term projects. One of the things I'm working on right now is a special events ordinance to create some standardized guidelines for how we do a permitting process for larger events or events of certain types, and working with the entirety of the city government. You never know what's going to come up.
That's true.
I might get a call from the city forester saying we've got an issue with a tree that is diseased and needs to be taken down, and there's a dispute between property owners as to who's responsible because they don't know where the property line is. And then I end up having to get involved a little bit to talk about, well, is there a survey available? Do we have any sort of indications from physical items on the ground, an old fence line, that type of thing.
Well, it should be noted, too, that you don't provide individual legal advice to any citizen or any individual that works for the city. Again, you're representing the city in that capacity. But you go further than that. You represent the city and the village of Plover in joint municipal court, which is something that we started a few years ago to help reduce the amount of forfeitures that people give. Tell us what your role is with the joint municipal court.
Sure, and just to clarify, the Village of Plover does provide its own attorney if they need to have a trial or any sort of a hearing or anything with regards to citations issued by their police department. But you're correct. In the municipal court, it is a prosecution role. Now, this is not a criminal court. There's no jail time on the line or anything like that. The most serious offense that we have in municipal court is first offense drunk driving. In the state of Wisconsin, that is not considered a criminal offense. But it also includes everything else under the traffic code, alcohol-related offenses such as underage drinking. We do see quite a few of those, especially this time of year. And things like disorderly conduct, retail theft, our marijuana ordinance, the citations also go through the municipal court for that. So it's a fairly broad range of things, but like I said, the first offense OWI is the most serious one that we handle.
Okay. Well, you know, there's not a lot of money that gets committed to the city attorney's office. You know, you have your legal supplies, papers, pens, and general office stuff. Of course, your staff salaries, and occasionally we have outside counsel that we need to get. But the revenue part of it, arguably you play a significant role in some of the revenues that we get as well. A small but very significant piece of our budget is allocated to our city attorney's office, and we thank you for everything you do. Until next time, I'm Mayor Mike, and we've been with City Attorney Andrew Beveridge.